Hi, and welcome to LRB Math Notebooks video on square roots. In this video, we're going to look more at the imperfect squares than the perfect squares. But for 8th grade math, to do the imperfect squares, you do have to know your perfect squares as well. Perfect squares, to review, are the numbers that we know an exact answer to. So, in this case, we have the square root of 64. We should know that that is 8, because 8 times 8 is 64. Our imperfect squares are the ones that we don't know an exact answer to. We don't know exactly what number times itself equals 60, because the square root of 60 is going to be an irrational number, meaning that decimal just keeps going and on without repeating. When you're trying to find an imperfect square, what we're going to do is we're going to use the two perfect squares that imperfect square is between. So if we go back to the square root of 60, we know that 60 is between 49 and 64. And the square root of 49 is 7. Square root of 64 is 8. We want the two consecutive integers that square root's between. So that means we know that the square root of 60 is somewhere between 7 and 8. Frequently, what you see on the EOG, especially on the gridded response, is a question that might ask you for the sum of all the integers between two imperfect squares. For this one, we're going to do between the square root of 40 and the square root of 90. To start with, we'll look at the square root of 40. Square root of 40 is somewhere between 36 and 49. Well, square root of 36 is 6, square root of 49 is 7, so square root of 40 is between 6 and 7. And then square root of 90, we know, is between 81 and 100, so the square root of 90 would be somewhere between 9 and 10. So that means the two things we're using are 6 and 7 and 9 and 10. Since we're looking for all the integers between these numbers, we're going to need to eliminate the lowest and the highest integer, because they're either too low or too high to be in between. So now we have 7 and 9 that we're working with. Well, it says all of the integers between those numbers. We're missing one. So between 7 and 9, we should know there's an 8. Now, all we have to do is find the sum of those integers. So we would do 7 plus 8 plus 9. 7 plus 8 plus 9 gives us 24. So 24 would be our answer for the sum of all the integers between the square root of 40 and the square root of 90. Now you're going to try some of these. You are going to get 4 problems where you have to find the sum of integers between two imperfect squares. You will be given the correct answers at the end of the video. Are you ready? Go! What is the sum of all the integers between square root of 3 and the square root of 20? Number 2. What is the sum of all the integers between the square root of 18 and the square root of 56? Number 3. What is the sum of all the integers between the square root of 12 and the square root of 44? Number 4. What is the sum of all the integers between the square root of 52 and the square root of 110? Time's up. Let's check your answers. Number 1, 9. Number 2, 18. Number 3, 15. Number 4, 38. How did you do? Once everyone in your group is finished, check to see who has the most correct. The person with the most correct may get a piece of candy from the bin. Hopefully, this has been helpful to you. Make sure you're paying attention in class and asking Mr. Anderson if you have any further questions about this topic.